Well, hello everyone. This is Pam, and I am going to spend a little time with you sharing weekend life. Let's start with an article that says local actors zoom to the rescue. Ohio Shakespeare Festival creates social media version of Romeo and Juliet for students by Carrie Clausen. Studying a Shakespearean play at school is challenging in the best of times, but even more so since the coronavirus has left students stuck learning at home. So how do you make Romeo and Juliet come alive for students at home instead of pointing them to a movie? Enter Akron, Ohio Shakespeare Festival, which unfortunately, like all theater companies across the country, has gone dark and whose actors have plenty of time on their hands. Starting Monday, the theater, working with Downtown Akron Partnership, is releasing a series for stuck-at-home students called R&J Zoom. DAP folks have shared with OSF that ninth graders from Akron Public Schools and surrounding districts are reading the Shakespearean tragedy now for their English classes and could use some help. At first, the theater was asked about filming a reading of the tragedy, but these thespians decided to take it a step further by filming the entire play with the actors performing remotely from their homes through Zoom, a video conferencing platform. The scenes will be broken down into 15 minutes, chronological chunks that students can access twice a week over the next 4 to 6 weeks. For this production, the Romeo and Juliet characters are completely aware that they're talking over Zoom. The approach creates a sort of social media rendition of the play. Putting it on Zoom is so relatable now. Tess Bolger, who directs and plays Juliet, said of the many students and adults working from home on Zoom now. She had this funny note for the actors, each of whom appears in a box on Zoom. Don't try to Brady Bunch it. Don't try and look at each other as if you can actually see each other in the different blocks that you're in. The actors are wearing clothes from their own closets, sticking with the same outfits for every Zoom scene to keep their characters easily identifiable. Buddy Taylor of Houston is doing remote camera work and building scenes with the help of open broadcasting software, and Burglar is editing the finished product at home through iMovie. The key was to offer an educational video of the play in a more palatable and enjoyable format by offering smaller chunks of the work twice a week. Chronological scenes to be released at 11 a.m. Mondays and Fridays can be seen at http://www.ohioshakspearefestival.com/rjzoom or on Ohio Shakespeare's Facebook page. The scene will remain on those sites indefinitely. All the decisions that we made artistically are trying to make it exciting, bite-sized, accessible, but still the entire text for students, Burglar said. Like all theaters, OSF is in a holding pattern since its live performances were shuttered, including the final weekend of Shaw's St. Joan last month and the postponement of Miss Holmes, which was to open April 17th. And as with most art organizations, these theater leaders want to keep connecting with the community and to offer help. Like everybody, we're trying to come up with how can we stay alive in people's minds when we can't be there for everyone, Burglar said. At 11:30 a.m. on Mondays and Fridays, after the R&J Zoom scene, OSF will host a Facebook Live Q&A with the actors, largely meant for homeschoolers and others interested in the project. The company invited schools to continue the theater directly to schedule private, free live actor talkbacks for their students on remote learning platforms of their choice. Instructions for how to schedule those will be included at the end of every R&J Zoom video. The theater is offering all of these services for free. For those who want to donate to Ohio Shakespeare Festival during this difficult time, see https://bit.ly/346QGPX. So how will the company depict fight scenes, including a brawl and a duel? In those moments, OSF will provide narration and show a picture of those fights from the company's 2018 production of Romeo and Juliet before going back into the Zoom scene. We joked around about punching at the Zoom screen and stuff, but we thought it was too distracting and not quite what we need, Burglar said. In the party scene where Romeo and Juliet meet, Burglar and actor Joe Pine as Romeo look at each other's video images through Zoom as they interact. There's going to be a little magic and romance lost because they can't look at each other in person and actually kiss and actually touch hands, Burglar said. Another famous love scene is a different story. The balcony scene is very successful because they're separated in the balcony scene to begin with, the director said. When Juliet takes a potion to feign death on Zoom, she is represented by just a blank black square with her name at the bottom. Characters are talking to her, but she's not responding. For Juliet's suicide scene, the play cuts over to narration. We don't have me sitting at my computer desk stabbing myself, Burglar explains. Juliet will look like she's signed off of Zoom, like she ended the call. Our next article, Virus Upends Passover Traditions. Family Plans Abbreviated Virtual Versions of Traditional Seder Dinners, by Charita Gaucher. Sundown Wednesday marks the start of Passover, the Jewish holiday commemorating the Israelites' liberation from slavery following a series of plagues inflicted upon their Egyptian captors. Lots of plagues, 10 to be exact. The centerpiece of Passover is the Seder, the ritualistic dinner that helps to retell the Exodus story. During Seder, places at the dinner table are occupied by family, friends, and even strangers. Not this year. The COVID-19 pandemic has put an end to such gatherings. One of the funniest things being posted on Facebook for the Jewish community is who would have believed that Passover would be canceled by a plague, says retired Canton Temple Israel Rabbi John Adlin. Adlin noted that under normal circumstances, he and his wife Sandy host more than a dozen guests. This will be a strange Pesach this year without a community of family and friends surrounding Sandy and me at our table, he said. Seder will seem kind of lonely as community is such a vital part of the Pesach. Adlin said they plan to conduct a virtual Seder through Zoom, adding that it will be an abbreviated version of the traditional dinner. We invited all the people who should have been with us and some siblings as well, Adlin said. So there may be 20. In the end, we are making lemonade out of lemons or matzah balls out of matzah. Universal Message. Rabbi John Spitzer, Temple Israel's Rabbi Emeritus, said Passover offers a universal message of freedom. The Seder meal, with its ritual, remembers and relives redemption in every generation, he said. The Passover Haggadah contains these words, "And you shall tell your child on that day, saying, It is because of what the Lord did for me when I went forth from Egypt." The Haggadah is a booklet used during the Seder to recount the story of the Passover, as well as lessons and teachings from the book of Exodus. These words suggest that more than just remembering what happened more than 3,000 years ago, I am actually a participant. I was redeemed from brutal slavery. Spitzer, founder of the Lifelong Learning Institute at Walsh University in North Canton, also volunteers as a Jewish chaplain for the Mansfield Correctional Institute. Last year, he transported a Seder meal to the prison prepared by the Temple Sisterhood. Members of the Temple Brotherhood presented the Seder for the inmates. The gratitude was amazing because even behind bars, the story of God's liberation of the Hebrews transformed and liberated them as well, he recalls. I have reflected upon this lesson a great deal over these past months. It is more than a message of effectiveness of a book of prayer, a generation-old ritual, and a delicious meal. We are not redeemed by prayer alone or by rituals and festivities. Our liberation is so much more than physical. Freedom from slavery to freedom. As to the spiritual aspect, there is certainly a feeling that all of us are slaves to this virus and we can't wait to be free again, Adlin said. Pesach is an emotional experience as you're going from slavery to freedom as the text elevates you higher and higher. Whether it's Passover for Jews, Easter for Christians, or Ramadan for Muslims, redemption is deeper than walking free of oppression, Spitzer said. In truth, like the inmates in Mansi, We are all incarcerated, imprisoned by life circumstances, economics, illnesses, age, and the like. Spitzer said the central lesson of Passover is that redemption is a mental and spiritual state of mind. Redemption is of the soul, he said. May each of us, Jews, Christians, Muslims, and others, be able to say to our hearts, it is because what God did for me, I went forth from the bondage of my life. Here's a new article for plant lovers from the Plant Lovers Almanac. Proper soil prep helps gardens grow, by Jacqueline Kowalski. The growing season is off to one of the strangest starts of our lifetime. We are staying as close to home as much as we can, and fortunately the garden and lawn offer the chance to get some fresh air and hopefully some respite from the crisis around us. Healthy soil is one of the keys to growing healthy plants. If your soil is dry enough to prepare, this is a great time to get some work done. How do you know if the soil's ready to be worked? Grasp a handful of soil and gently form a ball in your hand. If the ball breaks apart when you apply gentle pressure, then the soil is ready to be worked. If you cannot make a ball, the soil is too dry. And if the ball will not break without force, then the soil is too wet. It's important to avoid walking on or working the soil if it's too wet. This will cause complications which will create problems down the road. Should I add lime or sulfur? That all depends on the pH of your soil. Before investing time or material, it's best to have a soil test completed. Most university soil testing labs are either closed or operating at a lower capacity than usual. Many private labs are still operating. Ohio Line, https://ohioline.osu.edu/factsheet/HYG-1132 lists a number of regional labs. Call ahead to see if a lab is processing backyard garden samples. If you need to lower the pH of your soil, add elemental sulfur at the suggested rate. If you need to raise the pH, lime can be applied at the recommended rate. Should I add organic matter? Organic matter helps improve soil structure and nutrient holding capacity. If you have compost available, it would be great to add as you prepare the garden for the season. One important characteristic of fully composted compost is that individual materials in that compost should not be recognizable, and a 1 to 2 inch layer of compost and work it in. To till or not to till? Tilling can have negative and positive impacts on soil structure. If you choose to till, do so sparingly and when the soil is at the appropriate moisture level. Organic matter can also be incorporated by double digging or broad forking. Double digging is the process of digging 2 spade lengths deep, placing the soil on the side, mixing in compost, and placing back into the area in which the soil was removed. It is a good time to incorporate fertilizer based on product recommendations or soil testing results during any of these processes. What if I want to garden but haven't yet prepared the area? You have a couple of different options if you haven't yet prepared an area. One option is to cover the area in which you want to build the garden with a tarp or a weed barrier type material for several weeks. This will kill the grass and weeds in order to prepare the area. Once you remove the material, add organic matter and work the area to loosen the soil. Do not leave the area uncovered if you aren't ready to plant. Now that the grass is dead, if the area is not covered, weed seeds have a better chance of germinating because there isn't competition for light or nutrients. You can also sheet mulch, which is known as lasagna gardening. Place several layers of newspaper or cardboard over the area in which you intend to garden. Wet the material thoroughly. Cover the area with a layer of green material such as veggie scraps, coffee grounds, or fresh lawn clippings or combinations. Next, cover with a layer of brown material such as dried leaves, straw, or shredded paper. The layers should be about the same thickness. Continue this process until the pile is about a foot tall. The final layer should be a brown layer. Lasagna beds are more easily created in the fall, but if creating in the spring, the addition of a high nitrogen fertilizer such as blood meal will stimulate the pile to decompose quickly. Water the pile regularly if there hasn't been any rain. If the bed is too wet, cover with a tarp. It is important to note that perennial weeds such as dandelions will not be killed by this process. Hoeing, hand removal, or use of a herbicide may be needed after the light blocking material is removed. For more information on prepping your soil, see Prepare and Care for the Soil Properly at https://web.extension.illinois.edu/VEG guide/step05.cfm. Want to start a vegetable garden? More information on starting a vegetable garden can be found on the Let's Grow Akron, http://letsgrowakron.org/ and OSU Extension Summit County, https://summit.osu.edu. I don't know about you, but I'm not going to do any of that. This next article is titled Second Magical Bookstore Mystery Charms. Tale again based in charming bookstores in latest by Talmadge author Violet Waverly. Barbara McIntyre for the Beacon Journal. Customers who visit Charming Books, the shop owned by Violet Waverly in Verse and Vengeance, don't know that the charm is literal. The book is the second in Talmadge author Amanda Flower's Magical Bookshop series, and the shop itself chooses the book for the customer. In Crime and Poetry, the first book in the series, Violet was called home from her graduate studies in Chicago to run the family bookstore in Cascade Springs, a tourist village near Niagara Falls. Violet learned that it is her heritage to nurture the supernatural birch tree that grows inside the store. By watering it from a spring in a nearby woods, she feeds the shop's essence and allows it to select the books for the customers that they don't even know they want. She helped solve a murder and started a romance with handsome Native American Police Chief David Rainwater. The works of Emily Dickinson figured prominently. In Vengeance, Violet's grandmother, now the mayor, is the force behind a fundraising bicycle race to benefit a new Underground Railroad museum. All is going well until a participant dies during the race. It looks accidental, but then it is learned that his bicycle brakes were cut. The victim was a private investigator who was watching Violet, suspecting something unusual about her and hoping it would make him rich. He had a copy of Walt Whitman's Leaves of Grass in his backpack. One of Violet's students at the local community college, who was working for the bicycle rental where the PI got his bike, disappears. Her brother, a tradesman working on the museum construction, and Rainwater's sister have their own secrets. By late in the book, every copy of Leaves of Grass in the state of New York has found its way to Violet, sending her enigmatic messages she'll need to unravel. Verse and Vengeance, 307-page hardcover, cost $26.99 from Crooked Lane Books. Amanda Flower also writes the Amish Candy Shop mystery series. Botched Butterscotch is out this month. And as Isabella Allen, the Amish Quilt Shop Mysteries, her Andy Unstoppable won a 2015 Agatha Award in the Best Children's Young Adult Novel category. Dispatches from D.C. For more than a decade, William L. Hershey was the Washington correspondent for the Akron Beacon Journal, covering Akron area House of Representative members and Ohio senators. Quick and quotable columns from Washington 1985 to 1997 is a collection of about 100 of Hershey's dispatches. The book is divided into 3 sections corresponding with Ronald Reagan's second term from 1985 to 1988. George H.W. Bush, here called just George Bush, from 1989 to 1992, and Bill Clinton's first term from 1993 to 1997. Topics in some columns from more than 3 decades ago seem sadly time-worn, like a report of the 1988 National Inventors Hall of Fame induction, noting that the new museum would open in Akron probably in 1990. Inventure Place opened in 1995, but the Hall of Fame moved to Virginia in 2010. Other columns are reminders that the beat goes on. Ronald Reagan and Howard Metzenbaum didn't see eye to eye, but Reagan did state that an AK-47, a machine gun, is not a sporting weapon or needed for the defense of a home. Mensenbaum sponsored a bill to ban the sale of AK-47s. Reagan made his remarks after a California school shooting in 1989. The issue remains contentious. In 1989, Hershey reprimands then-President George H.W. Bush, who campaigned earnestly in Ohio and then treated Ohio like Siberia. On Christmas Day that year, Hershey listed what politicians should receive from Santa. For Bush, a map to find his way back to Ohio. For John Glenn, Ohio's most popular and gullible politician, a pocket truth detector. As Glenn and fellow Senator John McCain were cleared of wrongdoings in the Keating 5 savings and loan scandal, but still faced public denouncement. Quick and quotable, a 239-page softcover cost $24.95 from the University of Akron Press. Hershey was part of the Beacon Journal team that won a 1987 Pulitzer Prize for its coverage of James Goldsmith's attempted takeover of Goodyear. He is the co-author with John C. Green of Mr. Chairman, The Life and Times of Ray C. Bliss, about the Akron native who was chairman of the Republican National Committee from 1965 to 1969. November 7 has been announced as the date of the 33rd Annual Buckeye Book Fair in Worcester. A March 27 Facebook post stated, "Although we will continue to monitor the coronavirus situation, we anticipate that the November 7 Buckeye Book Fair will be able to go forward as planned." Let's talk about finding a silver lining while sheltering at home by Holly Christensen. Once upon a time, a woman complained to her rabbi that her mother-in-law, who had recently moved in with the woman's family, was driving her crazy. "She tells me my food isn't edible, I don't clean right, that my kids are lazy brats. What can I do?" The rabbi paused before telling the woman to move her chickens into the house. The next week, the woman told the rabbi things were worse. Her mother-in-law was still as mean as a snake, and now she had to work harder than ever to keep the house clean with the chickens inside. The rabbi listened before telling the woman to also bring in her goat, and the week after that, her cow. Finally, a month after she first confided to the rabbi, he told the woman to move all the animals out of the house. A week later, the rabbi asked the woman, how was she doing? "Oh my goodness, my life has never been better since the animals went back in the barn." Shelter-in-place laws have upended our lives, and while I don't want to minimize the reality that some of us will lose loved ones to COVID-19, I try to look for the few lotuses growing in the middle of this muck. I've read several articles on successfully coping through this time and have incorporated some of these ideas along with my own as we map out the new structure of our days. If there's one takeaway, it's this: be gentle with yourself. About homeschooling. I respect parents who commit to high-quality home education, but it never interested me. I want my children to go away for 6 to 8 hours every weekday, which is now indefinitely impossible. Luckily, our heroes, the kids' teachers, quickly generated at-home lessons. Will students have the same rigorous education as if school had remained open? No. But will they learn other important things? Undoubtedly. And come May, I hope to build a chicken coop and purchase 6 Bantam chicks. Boom, spring homeschooling, check. Food. Now's not the time to diet. No COVID-19 14-day weight loss programs, people. The stress we are all feeling is comparable to deep grief. Eating comfort foods has been shown to improve mood in uncertain times. Potatoes are my most beloved comfort food, baked, mashed, roasted, or fried. The first several days of shelter in place, I was nauseous by 2:30 p.m. each day. Once I limited my intake of daily news, my stomach improved, but until I did, salt and vinegar potato chips helped calm my rolling stomach. Do your kids want frozen pizza every day? Or find silver lining while sheltering at home by Holly Christensen. Once upon a time, a woman complained to her rabbi that her mother-in-law, who had recently moved in with the woman's family, was driving her crazy. "She tells me my food isn't edible, I don't clean right, that my kids are lazy brats. What can I do?" The rabbi paused before telling the woman to move her chickens into the house. The next week, the woman told the rabbi things were worse. Her mother-in-law was still as mean as a snake, and now she had to work harder than ever to keep the house clean with the chickens inside. The rabbi listened before telling the woman to also bring in her goat, and the next week after that, her cow. Finally, a month after she had first confided to the rabbi, he told the woman to move all the animals out of the house. A week later, the rabbi asked the woman, how was she doing? Oh my goodness, my life has never been better since the animals went back to the barn. Shelter-in-place laws have upended our lives, and while I don't want to minimize the reality that some of us will lose loved ones to COVID-19, I try to look for the few lotuses growing in the middle of this muck. I've read several articles on successfully coping through this time and have incorporated some of these ideas along with my own as we map out the new structure of our days. If there's one takeaway, it's this: be gentle with yourself. Homeschooling. I respect parents who commit to high-quality home education, but it's never interested me. I want my children to go away for 6 to 8 hours every weekday, which is now indefinitely impossible. Luckily, our heroes, the kids' teachers, quickly generated at-home lessons. Will students have the same rigorous education as if schools had remained open? No. But will they learn other important things? Undoubtedly. And come May, I hope to build a chicken coop and purchase 6 bantam chickens. Boom! Spring homeschooling? Check. Food. Now's not the time to diet. No COVID-19 14-day weight loss programs, people. The stress we are feeling is comparable to deep grief. Eating comfort foods has been shown to improve moods in uncertain times. Potatoes are my most beloved comfort food. Baked, mashed, roasted, and fried. The first several days of shelter in place, I was nauseous by 2:30 p.m. each day. Once I limited my intake of daily news, my stomach improved. But until I did, salt and vinegar potato chips helped calm down my rolling stomach. Do your kids want frozen pizza every day? Or is pizza all you can manage to cook? Nobody will suffer long-term health consequences from eating pizza for a month. Most kids have a favorite fruit and veggie. For Lyra, it's broccoli and grapes. For Leaf, it's cucumbers and kiwis. With little preparation, daily servings of these favorites help balance out frozen pizzas. Sleep. Everyone seems to need more sleep right now. Even my 3 adult sons are wiped out by 8 p.m. Again, it's the ongoing undercurrent of stress that wears us down, not just emotionally, but physically. Go ahead and sleep 9 or 10 hours a night. It's downtime we need and good for the immune system. Adopt a dog or a cat. There really isn't a better time to adopt a pet. Most area animal rescue organizations remain open by appointment. You can preview animals online and then go set up a time to meet them. My son Hugo adopted my first granddaughter last weekend. He and Rutabaga, the cutest thing, now join my dogs and me on our daily walks. Exercise. Ohio Department of Health Director Dr. Amy Acton, also known as Wonder Woman, recommends walking outdoors while social distancing. Walking outdoors is always great for both mind and body, which we need now more than ever. On my daily walks at the Akron Dog Park off of Memorial Parkway, I see many of the same people but do not know their names. Instead, I know them as mom or dad of Karma, Bailey, Tony, Rosie, Tanner, Quinn, Snoopy, Reese, Felix, Sabin, Freya, Buddy, Rocky, Pepper, Mara, Shadow, and to name a few. It's been a lifeline to walk 6 feet apart with people I've come to know. We chit-chat as our dogs romp, thereby filling, if just a little, the socializing void. Frequently, Leaf and Lyra come too with their bikes, which they ride up and down the trail with the dogs chasing after them. How about reading? I am sending friends and family Rust, a memoir of steel and grit, written by Elise Goldbach, who worked for 3 years in the Cleveland Steel Mills. In her nonfiction, Bildungsroman, well, that's a good word. In her nonfiction, Bildungsroman, Goldbach unflinchingly recounts episodes in her life that formed her into the woman she's become. Though she's young enough to be my daughter, Goldbach and I studied for our MFAs in creative writing together more than a decade ago. From the first time I read one of her pieces, her talent floored me. With crisp prose, she pulls readers into the complexity of the mills and her life, while highlighting the resilience of Northeast Ohio's working-class citizens. Stay calm, stay healthy, and most importantly, be kind to yourself and others. When we are finally released from sheltering at home, may we, like the woman after her farm animals returned to the barn, find renewed appreciation for the many things we so recently took for granted. This next article is Streaming Gets a Boost. Audiences increase during quarantine. New services to join market in the coming weeks by George M. Thomas. Amid the backdrop of stay-at-home orders due to the coronavirus, 3 competitors will step into the streaming wars in the coming weeks and months in the latest debuting Monday on smartphones only. Quibi, short for Quick Bites, a service developed by Jeffrey Katzenberg, a founder of DreamWorks Studio, and Meg Whitman, former CEO of Hewlett-Packard, makes a $1.1 billion bet that those youthful faces constantly staring into the glare of their phones will want to watch documentaries, movies, and reality shows 4 to 10 minutes at a time and on a daily basis. To ensure it gets the proper blast off, it's partnered with filmmakers that include Steven Spielberg, the horror-themed show After Dark, Kiefer Sutherland, a reimagining of The Fugitive, and Akron's own LeBron James for I Promise, a documentary looking in at the first year of the school for at-risk students that he established. Others involved include comedian Kevin Hart and Sophie Turner, Games of Thrones. Given the platform chosen and the length of the programming involved, it's not a stretch to view Quibi, which will cost $5 a month with ads and $8 without, as a curiosity. I don't see it as a major risk. We live in a non-traditional world of cross-platform media and fragmentation, says T.K. Gore, Director of Business Development at Comscore, a media analytical firm. People are watching so much content on their smartphones today via Netflix, Hulu, Amazon Prime, YouTube, and Twitch, as well as social media platforms in Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, Snapchat, and TikTok. Our smartphone is a personal and customized device. For many, it's the device that they turn to, and one that we enjoy streaming content on, whether it's inside our homes or on the go. Kim Oswarski, Associate Professor of Film, Television, and Digital Media at Texas Christian University in Fort Worth, Texas, is more skeptical of Quibi prospects. I think the fact that they're using bigger talents might help, but hopelessly, I think most people, if they're watching stuff on their phone, they're going to watch Netflix. You can download things from Netflix, she said. If you have 20 minutes to spare, why wouldn't you watch the show that you've been watching? It's a very odd choice from my standing. The difference may be in Katzenberg's stated target audience of Gen Z and younger millennials, ages 20 to 35, and the perceived willingness to use their phones as their primary source to consume entertainment. Still, Quibi won't be the only new kid on the block in the coming weeks, as AT&T is set to unveil HBO on steroids. HBO Max may debut for $15 a month with more than 10,000 hours of programming. Then NBC Universal will launch Peacock July 15th to the general public, while some customers will receive early access at a cost of $5 with ads, $10 without, with a library of 7,500 hours of entertainment for the basic service and 15,000 for the premier tier. In the current state of the nation, a crowded field may not matter, as approximately 2/3 of the country remains under stay-at-home orders, and given the closure of restaurants, movie theaters, and bars, there isn't much to do other than get out for a walk in the neighborhood. Streaming up is globally and in the Americas, almost drastically, according to a new report by Conviva, a media analytical firm. For the month of March, streaming climbed by 27%, a fact Conviva CEO Bill Demas attributes to people staying at home. This is a very unique time given the unprecedented nature of the COVID-19 pandemic, Gore said. Demas said for all the services, old and new, quality content will ultimately decide their fate. But he's also realistic in his assignment. I think they're going to get more eyeballs potentially because the quarantine, if you will, is going to be lasting certainly through May from everything I'm seeing, he said. Their timing, again, nobody wants to take advantage of a tragedy, which this is, but their timing seems like it's certainly not bad. Next article, eye movement therapy helps first responders. Process has been shown to aid in dealing with harsh realities of their jobs by Holly Zachariah. The scent of sage adds a sense of calm to the room, and 3 small lamps cast a soft glow. The high-backed office chair looks inviting and comfy, yet when John Nessel sits down, he cannot relax. One jeans-covered knee bounces, the heel of his work boot tapping against the floor. The sunglasses he fidgets with suddenly seem more interesting than the psychologist beside him. He cracks every knuckle. Brian Bartlett leans in and asks Nessel what memory he wants to work on today. Nessel offers just one word, the name of a baby girl who died during his recent emergency room shift at a Columbus hospital. Bartlett begins, "Okay, where's the damage?" "That I couldn't save her," Nettles answers. "What would you rather have in your mind?" Bartlett asks this time. "That I did my best," Nessel says. "Okay, good," Bartlett says. "Let's go with that." A couple of more questions, then Bartlett hits a switch and a small blue dot pops up on the screen of the iPad that is positioned on a stand in front of Nessel. From the upper left corner to the lower right corner, the dot travels back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. A pause, a few more probing questions. Then quiet, and the dot starts sliding diagonally again. Nessel follows it with his gaze. This is eye movement desensitization and reprocessing, a psychotherapy that's been around since at least the 1900s, but one that has exploded in use in recent years, especially for those suffering trauma. Almost all of Bartlett's patients at his Better Minds group practice in Granville are first responders. EMDR, as it is commonly called, isn't easily explained. Bartlett boils it down like this: while specific memories are in our brains, the rapid eye movement helps stimulate and synchronize the frontal and temporal lobes, retaining the brain to dim the memory and help our bodies recognize it is no longer an immediate threat. And that allows our natural fight or flight instinct to tamp down. The fear disappears. Nessel doesn't care why it works, he just knows that it does. A 52-year-old former police officer who worked Chicago's roughest South Side precinct now serves as a paramedic firefighter and lives in Granville. He found the treatments have faded his ugly memories, reduced his nightmares, and eased his anxiety. It's not normal to push on somebody's chest and hope they'll get their life back. It's not normal to look at a child's face and watch the light in their eyes go out, Nessel said. This, he said of EMDR, lifts the fear and the pain away from me. Some clients, those with a recent single trauma, like experiencing a personal assault or witnessing a violent crash, might only need one session. For those with old, lingering, and repeated traumas, it can be more. Dr. Brooke Donaldson deals with both. A former EMT firefighter, she is now an emergency room physician at Genesis Hospital in Zanesville and a trauma doctor for the Life Flight Emergency Medical Helicopter Service. No day is routine. Every moment in her work schedule is life or death. And a couple of years ago, while on an anniversary trip with her husband, it all came crashing down. "I was at my breaking point, at the brink of suicide," the 34-year-old doctor said. "I needed help." A fellow firefighter recommended she try EMDR. She's been having regular sessions for almost a year now. Sometimes, she says, she leaves Bartlett's office feeling renewed, relieved, unburdened. Other times, when the traumas they have been discussing are long suppressed and deep, not so much. "We work through childhood traumas that have never been explored," Donaldson said. "That's complex and takes more time." She's a leader in the movement to normalize things for doctors, nurses, paramedics, and law enforcement officers needing help. Donaldson will, in May, move to Licking Memorial Hospital in Newark, and part of her duties will be to establish a peer-based team focused on helping medical professionals focus on self-care and coping with trauma. "People don't get what we go through. Even our families don't get it," she said. "But we are starting to break the gap." Here's some questions from the mailbag by Rich Heldenfels. What happened to The Good Fight? It had some of the characters from The Good Wife. It was on last fall for a few episodes and then disappeared. I thought the storyline was really good and would love to see more of it. Answer: The Good Fight, the successor to The Good Wife, has had some airing on the CBS broadcast network, but Good Fight's main TV home is CBS All Access, a subscription streaming service. 3 seasons have been shown there since 2017, and a 4th begins on All Access on April 9th. Question: I have a video of 2 films made in 1935 and 1937. Murder at the Baskervilles and The Triumph of Sherlock Holmes, starring Arthur Wantner as Holmes and Ian Fleming as Watson. Both were filmed in England. Is that Ian Fleming also the creator of James Bond? No, the author Ian Fleming, born in 1908, would have been a bit younger to play Watson in those productions, especially in tandem with Wantner, more than 20 years his senior. The actor Ian Fleming was 20 years older than writer Fleming and better suited in age for Watson, playing the role in 4 of Wantner's 5 Holmes films. Wantner played Holmes on screen from 1931 to 1937 in The Sleeping Cardinal, also known as Sherlock Holmes' Fatal Hour, The Sign of 4, The Missing Rembrandt, The Triumph of Sherlock Holmes, and Silver Blaze, also known as Murder at the Baskervilles. David Stuart Davies' book starring Sherlock Holmes praises Wantner's work, but calls actor Fleming another in a long line of stupid Watsons. Question: I have a question about Ted Bessel, who was Marlo Thomas's boyfriend on That Girl and in 2 delightful episodes of The Mary Tyler Moore Show. Is he alive? I certainly hope so. Answer: Ultimately, Bessel died in 1996 from an aortic aneurysm. He was 57. Bessel did have a good career as an actor and a director. Nominated for an Emmy once as an actor on That Girl, his work directing and producing The Tracey Ullman Show led to more nominations, including Shearing and Ullman win for Best Variety Music or Comedy Program in 1989. That said, his career also had a show he called A Mistake even while he was acting in it, the 1972 sitcom Me and the Chimp, which has been ranked among the worst TV shows of all times. Question: After the year 2000, but before 2004, there was a TV show about a New Orleans police detective. I can't remember the name of the show, but the actor's first name was Tony. The show wasn't on very long, but I thought it was great. I was wondering if this is now available on DVD. The show you remember first aired before 2000, but you may have been catching reruns. It was The Big Easy, a TV adaptation of the Dennis Quaid, Ellen Barkin movie of the same name. The TV series starred Tony Crane, Detective Remy McSwain, and Susan Walters as District Attorney Ann Osborne. USA Network first aired it in 1996-97. While I have not found a DVD, the 2 seasons totaling 35 episodes are available on Amazon and free with Prime Video subscription. Question: As a kid in the 60s, I watched a show set in Revolutionary War times when patriots were conducting clandestine meetings to organize. One character wore a scarecrow mask and rode through the night while an eerie song played. Can you tell me more about this show and how I might watch it? Answer: That was a production known as Dr. Sin, alias The Scarecrow, or The Scarecrow of Romney Marsh. It was shown on The Wonderful World of Disney in 1964 in 3 parts and starred Patrick McGoohan, who would later be famous for TV shows Secret Agent and The Prisoner and many other TV and movie roles. The drama has been released on DVD, though copies can now be very expensive. The 3 parts are on YouTube and the quality isn't too bad. Question: I was wondering if you can help me with a World War II movie that I saw many years ago. I'm pretty sure Richard Burton played a German officer, and it might have taken place in Italy. He was conflicted with a priest because he had to be in charge of mass executions. I was young at the time, and it scared the blank out of me. Answer: That would be Massacre in Rome, an Italian film from 1973, which indeed starred Burton along with Marcello Mastroianni. It was inspired by a real-life incident during World War II. How about some advice from Miss Manners? How do you tactfully point out typos? Dear Miss Manners, lately I've come across a large number of typos online, such as restaurant menus, sites for house cleaning services, etc. Most of them are obvious spelling errors, such as clanning instead of cleaning. but occasionally it's a poor choice of words that makes it very difficult to understand and the intended message. I have on occasion made silly errors as well. For instance, my phone number was incorrect on my resume for years. I'd like to point out the errors, but understand that if the business is a labor of love, the owner might be insulted. How can I provide this feedback without upsetting the recipient? Dear gentle reader, by treading carefully. Miss Manners does not want to make assumptions, but it is possible that some of the authors of these websites are not native English speakers. While they may benefit from your help, they are not soliciting it, and you are not their employer. However, that could change. If you feel so moved and are interested in their services, you could send them a direct message saying, I am seeking a house cleaner, but did not quite understand this listing. Do you mind clarifying what comes with the 3-hour Poople package? Dear Miss Manners, I frequently travel for work and often stay with local hosts rather than in hotels. I'm a low-maintenance guest and kind to my hosts. I thank them in person and also, when possible, by name at the events where I am a speaker. I also send a personal and sincere message of thanks by email afterwards. Does that note of thanks need to be handwritten? If so, can it be a card left in the bedroom where I've been staying, or must it be mailed? Also, does etiquette require a gift for my host? I've been trying to think of something appropriate for hosts. I may not know whose personal tastes are a mystery, and that's small enough to fit into a compact air luggage. Dear gentle reader, your understandable confusion is caused by the melange of business and personal manners. Were you visiting a friend, it would be reasonable to reciprocate your host's hospitality with more than a letter, inviting them out to dinner and sending them a present. Presumably, you can guess your friend's tastes. But you are working. Your hosts are making a donation to the cause. Presents are not necessary, but a handwritten letter sent after you return home, leaving it in the room, suggests that you have a supply to hand out. Would be gracious. How about some Dear Abby? Dear Abby, my boyfriend of 15 years is in prison. We have 2 children together. Our relationship has been rough. We had a fight, and he went to jail for it. Another reason he went to prison is he violated his probation and failed to report. I take the kids to see him, and he still wants us to be together. He has nowhere to go when he gets out. How do I tell him I don't want him back at my house without him retaliating on me? Afraid in Texas. Dear Afraid, this is how. Tell him plainly that because of the circumstances that sent him to jail, you no longer want him living under your roof. It's bad for the children. Therefore, he will be finding other living arrangements when he is released. He may not like it, but please remember you owe him nothing. You have to stand your ground for your children's sake. Should he stalk or threaten you in any way, go to the police, tell them you are afraid of him and why, and ask about a restraining order because he's violent. Dear Abby, when my husband and I eat a meal, as soon as he's finished, he gets up and wanders around. We call that the wandering phase of his meal. I have asked him to no avail to stay seated and talk with me. I think it's disrespectful. My husband also pulls out his phone when we are out with friends. I have told him that what he's doing is basically telling them he would rather see what's on his phone than converse with them. He doesn't do it for the entire meal, but when he does, it irritates me. How can I get basic manners across to him? Lonely at mealtime. Dear Lonely, I knew a person years ago who had an impulse control problem similar to the one you're describing your husband having. The man had been in an auto accident and suffered a traumatic brain injury. In your husband's case, it appears he either has attention deficit disorder or suffers from a lack of consideration for your feelings. There is help for the former, but you can't teach basic manners to someone who doesn't want to try to learn. You have my sympathy. Try not to let it give you heartburn. Dear Abby, my husband and I have been married for 15 years. Before we married, I purchased a house. He moved in a month after our wedding and made a lot of improvements to it. We are now in the process of doing more renovations. His mom moved in with us 2 months ago. Before she moved in, the plan was to take the downstairs, which has a living room and a bedroom, and convert it to a bedroom and room leading out to the patio to have another entrance to our swimming pool. But she wants to decorate that room with her furniture and use it when her friends and family visit her. My husband says she's 77. She doesn't have many more years left, so let's let her do what she wants. He always adds, I can tell her she isn't wanted and find somewhere for her to go, but I don't know where it would be. I have always given in, but he doesn't see it that way. Should I let someone come into my house and redecorate, if differently than how I want it? Please let me know if I'm being selfish like he says. Invaded in the South. Dear Invaded, let me get this straight. Your mother-in-law will occupy the downstairs of your home while you and your husband occupy the upstairs. If she wants to decorate her bedroom and the room in which she entertains her visitors, it won't be a reflection on your taste, and frankly, it shouldn't be. It is understandable. What is clear to me is that you really don't want her living under your roof because your husband can't or won't do the research to find reasonable alternatives for his mother. The task of finding something suitable is yours. Dear Abby, my husband is terminally ill with cancer and hasn't long to live. I would like to ask friends that in lieu of flowers they make donations to a scholarship fund for 3 very precious granddaughters who have spent most of every day of their young lives with him. They are 10, 8, and 5. He has been their caregiver. However, we have other grandchildren who are grown and have grandchildren from college and great-grandchildren who are the same age as these 3 granddaughters. I'm afraid of offending these grandchildren by not including their children. Is asking for memorial donation tacky of me to ensure these 3 granddaughters who have been so close to him are provided for? Signed, Provided for in Midwest. Dear Provided, your adult, college-educated grandchildren should be able to provide for their children without help from you. I assume there is a reason your husband has been their caregiver for the grandchildren whose future you are concerned about. If you and your husband would like to request that friends skip flowers and contribute to a college fund for them, it is your privilege. And if you get flack for it, you should explain the reason why. Well, my dear friends, that's all the time I have for us. I hope you enjoyed your time with me and weekend life as I did with you. This is Pam saying, be blessed and make it a great day.